a famous lawyer, defended a lot of prominent opposition figures from Russia, Ukraine, like Nemtsov, Yashin, Gudkov, Kara-Murza. Yes. But you left Russia, you fled the country, and now you are working in Strasbourg. How do you work? How do you defend now the prominent political activists and dissidents?
Okay, you're absolutely quite right. I'm a Russian human rights lawyer. I'm a lawyer of Boris Nemtsov. For many, many years, I was a lawyer of Boris Nemtsov, who has been a leader of Russian opposition for 14 years, till his assassination, just near the Kremlin. And after that, I am a lawyer of his family. Zhanna Nemtsov has been claimed as a victim, and this investigation on his murder is not solved, I think. Absolutely, because there are no organizers, there are no sponsors, and just a little part of the perpetrators have been sentenced to the imprisonment. So I'm a lawyer also of Kara-Murza and Yashin. Just now, they are the most prominent Russian political opposition leaders, and fortunately, after several years of our work, they have been released. Last August of 24, they have been released in the framework of this famous international swap in June, at the end of July and the beginning of August of the last year. There was a big swap between Russian spies who have been captured in the Western countries and Russian political prisoners who have been released by Putin's regime. And so I live and work in Strasbourg just now because I have to leave Russia several days before the verdict to Kara-Murza. It was in April of 23. Because of the threats from the behalf of prosecutor, judge, chair judge of in this procedure, and so I've gotten information about possible arrest maybe in several weeks and so on, and it was quite dangerous for me, unfortunately, to stay in Russia. But just now, there is a famous NGO. The Centre de la Protection Internationale, International Protection Center, founded 20 years ago by famous Russian human rights lawyer, my teacher, Miss Karina Moskalenko. And we work in the framework of this International Protection Center. We cooperate with our brave colleagues who are staying in Russia just now. There are not so many human rights lawyers in Russia, unfortunately. Some of our colleagues have KGB background, police background, and so on, and not all of them are ready to protect, to make legal help to the Russian political prisoners, to the Ukrainian prisoners of war and civilian hostages, and so on. But our brave colleagues who are in cooperation with our center, they make their daily job, brave, I think absolutely brave job. They try to protect Ukrainian prisoners of war. Several thousands in Russia are the Ukrainian prisoners of war. A great number, I don't know exactly, but maybe 15 or maybe 17,000 of civilian, so-called in Ukrainian, цивильные заручники, civilian hostages, who has been captured by the Russian occupation army and the occupation law enforcement officials on the occupied territories of Ukraine. They are transferred to the Russian territory, and they are accused to the different accusations, so-called of high treason, terrorism, and so on and so on. But it's quite absolutely illegal. It has nothing to do with law. It's quite a terrible work of the Putin's law enforcement agencies and brave Russian lawyers. Some of them try to help them, to make legal help, to protect them as lawyers. Yes. Because when our lawyers join the criminal cases against the Russian political prisoners, against the Ukrainian hostages, there are less torture. there is an information about these hostages, and we keep a connection with their families. So it's a question, it's a subject of life and death for them, in fact. So we don't believe in Russian jurisdiction and Russian justice. Unfortunately, Russian courts, Russian judicial system, and Russian law enforcement agencies have nothing to do with law. But at the same time, it's necessary to help to these sensitive groups of the hostages, to try to help them and to make their safety and security, because it's very important. It's for them, it's a subject of life and death.
Yes. Do you feel safe, protected? We know that Putin's revenge is awful, horrible. How do you feel?
So just for remind, I hope you remember about some victims of Putin's regime abroad.
Yes.
Alexander Litvinenko in UK.
Litvinenko.
Skripal's family in UK. Very strange poisonings of the Russian opposition activists also abroad. But fortunately, just now, I think that the main problem for Putin's regime is Ukraine. The heroic struggle of Ukrainian people against this aggression, against this full-scale aggression of Putin. I hope that he has a lot of time and resources to pay attention. Just for me, for example, but I can't feel myself in absolute safety and absolute security. But it's my duty. When I lived in Russia, I was an absolutely open-minded lawyer of the Russian opposition leaders. I could be lawyer of, for example, United Russia, Zhirinovsky, and so on, but I didn't want to do it, and so I am. They have been they are my friends. We have been close friends with Boris Nemtsov. He has not been only my client, but also my friend, and so it's my duty. So I can't feel myself absolutely safe and in absolutely secure. But so what have I done? It's necessary to go on our struggle and to make my job.
Yes. Okay. Kara-Murza is free now. Navalny, Nemtsov, and a lot of prominent activists are dead. And
Unfortunately.
Putin is not bearing...
He's alive, unfortunately.
Alive, yes, and not bearing the consequences.
Yes, Nemtsov, just for remind, has been killed at the end of February of 15. Navalny has been killed in February of the last year of 24. Been both murders. It's absolutely Putin's regime is guilty in their murders. Navalny has been 24/7 in the hands of the law enforcement in the strict regime colony in North Siberia. Nemtsov has been walked along the Kremlin wall, and he has been killed in maybe 200 meters before the Kremlin wall. It's the most guided place in the world. It's impossible to imagine more guarded place in the world. And they're no any doubt they're the victims of Putin's regime. Putin is the sponsor and the organizer, in fact, of these murders, because Nemtsov and Navalny have been real political leaders. They have been quite influential. If they have not been influential, what was the reason to kill them?
Yes.
So absolutely. But I'm absolutely sure that Nemtsov was preparing to this aggression against Ukraine many years before this full-scale aggression, which has started 3 years ago. Just for remind, Nemtsov has been killed while he has prepared. He has started to write his report, Putin, War in Ukraine.
Yes.
And he has been killed just in this during this process. So just now it's a very difficult situation because our political activists, some of us are in exile, and fortunately that Kara Murza and Yashin have been released in this international swap last August. And another political activists and political opposition leaders are also in exile. Gennady and Dmitry Gurkovs, Mikhail Khodorkovsky, Navalny team, and so on and so on. Some of our colleagues, unfortunately, are sentenced to the imprisonment in Russia. Alexei Gorin, Mikhail Krieger, many
Journalists also.
journalists, political activists, journalists, lawyers. By the way, the team of Navalny lawyers, Alexei Liptser, Igor Sergunin, and Vadim Kobzev have been imprisoned just because they make their professional job, just only for this, in fact. And so it's a very difficult situation. But I think that any war will end sooner or later. I hope with the victim of I hope with the victory of Ukraine. I hope. But it could be different ways. Anyway, we support Ukraine in its heroic struggle against Russian aggression. In fact, we are also enemies of Putin's regime. We are anti-fascists who are strongly against the fascist Putin's regime. I think that Putin recognizes himself as the so-called father of the Slavic peoples. So he has a father of the Russians. He thinks he's some kind of father of the Ukrainians and Belarusians. And just for reminder, I'm absolutely sure that he has the right to recognize himself as a father of the Balkan Slavic peoples. I have no doubt about it. It's a very dangerous situation.
It's a big influence.
Yeah.
Actually, in the Balkans and.
Unfortunately, there is a big influence of Putin's regime. I think I'm absolutely sure that the fact that Putin has come to power in 2000, it's a very difficult situation for Russia. It's terrible. It was a great mistake of Yeltsin's team when they have brought Putin to power. But just now we have to fight. They have nothing other way except to struggle. To struggle against this regime. We try to influence the Russian situation from abroad. We keep connections with our brave colleagues who are still in Russia. We are in strong connection with them. We try to help them by different ways, by information, by some different ways of help. And we also hope that the international community, there is great difficulties with the approach and with the point of view of the just current American administration. I think it's a great mistake of American administration that they don't see any difference between the victim and the aggressor. So it's absolutely clear situation. There is an aggressor. With Putin at the head, and there is a victim. I don't think maybe President Zelensky is not an angel, but it's a choice of Ukrainian people. And anyway, he's the leader of the struggle. And it's not it's not the business of Putin's regime to force any neighboring countries about the power in their countries, either Ukrainian or Belarus. Belarus, in fact, you know that it's under the full suppression of Putin's regime, and also I think that it is a willing of Putin's regime also to try to influence the other Slavic countries. Including Balkan countries, including Serbia, for example, including Montenegro. You remember about this attempt of the change of political power in Montenegro several years ago, and I think all of us must remember that Putin's regime is quite dangerous. It's necessary to be always to be ready to struggle against this influence.
Yes, I think that It's the end of the interview. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I realized that you are currently in exile, and as many Belarusians who fled the country, and maybe your problems may be different from those who are still in Belarus, but still, if you return there in Belarus, you probably will have the same fate as Navalny.
You're absolutely right. In accordance with the UN experts' information, more than 600,000 Belarusians were forced to flee the country. I'm among of them. I was forced to flee my country because of risk to be killed. One day Lukashenko personally said me, if you betray me, I will strangle you by my own hands. Later, in interview with Vladimir Solovyov, Russian propagandist, he repeated that I promise Latushka that I will hang him. He adds that it was a joke, but we know dictator very well.
Yes.
Lukashenko responsible for the many crimes committed by him personally, crimes against humanity, crime of aggression. So today I'm sentenced for 18 years in absentia. My daughter, Yana, she also has a criminal case. My cousin, Anatoly Latushko, he is a political prisoner, sentenced for 6 years. It is a drama in Belarus. There are highest in the history of the many, many years of Europe, a scale of repression and terror in European country, Belarus.
Yes, okay. So how can Council of Europe, we are now here in the Council of Europe, how can Council of Europe help? What kind of suggestions and proposals do you have? What kind of support do you need from the Council of Europe?
As I said, we have unprecedented situation in our country. More than 1,200 political prisoners, but in reality there are more. Lukashenko decided to liquidate all opposition party. He delegalized all 11 opposition parties in Belarus. Also, he closed absolutely all independent mass media. And he liquidated more than 50% NGOs, 1,900 plus NGOs were liquidated. As I said, atmosphere, fear and terror. But we have also unprecedented situation in democratic forces. We created institutions. We have president-elect in exile, it's reality. We have United Transitional Cabinet as executive body of democratic forces, created during Congress in Vilnius after the Russian invasion to Ukraine in 2022. And we have Coordination Council, a representative body, elected, first time in our history, elected representative body. For example, for me, I received more than 2,400 votes from Belarus and out of Belarus, Belarusians. They voted for me, and I am leader of the biggest faction in Coordination Council. And first time, unprecedentedly, Council of Europe, Parliamentary Assembly, PACE, invited our delegation of democratic forces, to participate in the sessions of PACE. We have 6 members of our delegations, and we can communicate with PACE. For example, yesterday, I participated in Legal and Human Rights Committee, and we discussed a draft of resolution, Russian war of aggression against Ukraine, the need to ensure accountability and avoid impunity. And I proposed an amendment which was supported by several deputies of PACE. And this amendment is about that Assembly reiterates that the special tribunal's jurisdiction should extend to the alleged crimes of aggression committed by the so-called Belarusian leadership. It is my initiative. It was voted in the legal commission. I'm waiting that PACE also will support my proposal as a member of Belarusian delegation here.
Yes, okay. So what do you think? Western countries don't have power, or they don't want to interfere because they are afraid of some kind of revenge from Putin?
You know, we as a democratic force...
Putin and Lukashenko, sorry. Yes.
You know, we as a democratic forces, we expect our partners to be more engaged. But we also understand that the future of Belarus is in the hands of Belarusians. We expect from our partners to be more active in the question of accountability. For example, we know that Lukashenko committed so many crimes. For example, we submitted 2 communications to the ICC on the fact of illegal deportation of Ukrainian children to the Belarus from the temporary occupied territories of Ukraine. We submitted a communication. We initiated communication with the Minister of Justice of Lithuania, and we prepared legal strategy, and government of Lithuania initiated a preliminary investigation in ICC on the fact of the crimes against humanity committed by Lukashenko regime. We are done a lot of job, but now instruments in the hands of our partners, instruments in ICC and countries who are members of the Rome Statute. So we wait that they will be more active in this sphere. Belarus is struggling for democracy for years. The last period is dramatic period, but Belarus is very often asking, democracy is effective instrument of managing country, democracy based on the rules of law. So it's very important to give an answer of Belarusians that yes, democracy based on the law, international law.
Yeah. Okay. And about Ukrainian and Russian war. Yes. My question is: do you see some chances for peace deal?
You know,
Lukashenko is supporting, of course, Putin and that occupation.
I'm sentenced for 18 years in absentia. There were several attempts to kill me by special services of Belarus in the territory of Poland. But I'm optimist. I'm still optimist. Telling about war in Ukraine, I'm more pragmatic and I'm rather pessimist. Why? I know that Putin wants to have whole control over Ukraine. It's his main goal to have this whole control. Putin included in his constitution 4 Ukrainian regions and Crimea. So he wants to occupy these 4 Ukrainian regions: Donetsk, Lugansk, Kherson, and Zaporozhye. This is his goal. So he will never stop till he will achieve his goals. That is why it's very important for Europe to be strong, to be stronger as they can, to support Ukraine in such difficult situation, to support democratic forces of Belarus. It is threat for Europe also, and it's also challenge for all of us. We understand that we are responsible for our country, Europeans responsible for Europe. Belarusian nation is a part of European Union. Ukrainians also the part of Europe. That is why let's unite our forces. Let's unite, to be united, and to try to struggle for democracy and to achieve a victory.
Yes. Thank you very much for this
Thank you.
interview.